Hi guys, welcome to our second Soul Reveal live stream. I'm Elizabeth Toby, Director of Community at Tryon Worlds, and I am here with Elrar and two of our devs to reveal the Tempest Soul. So how about you guys say hi, who you are, and what you do?
You're up.
Me?
Yeah, they already know me. Some of them do.
But you can still introduce yourself to new people.
No. I don't like new people. I don't like new things.
I am the body double who's pretending to be Atreus today. No, I'm Atreus, and I'm the warrior dev who works on the warriors.
And I'm Gersh, one of the producers. You've seen me before. I'm sure you'll see me again.
And before we hop into the game, just so you know, we do have some questions from you. You'll see me looking down because I have my computer open. I'm going to try and follow chat. So please ask questions as we go along, and we'll try and get to as many as possible. But do you guys want to hop on into the game?
Yep.
Let's do it up.
Let's do it.
So this time around, hey, Elra, there you go.
Oh dear.
This time around we brought props.
Hold on, I've got a blinky screen.
Blinky
Sorry guys,
screen.
you're going to have to deal with this for a second while I fix this.
But
This is my
this is-
own tech issue.
But this
Please.
is awesome. No, awesome.
Your
I
gadget
saw it going.
broke it.
Anyways, my gadget broke it. So one of the great things about the Tempest is we can use neat props like this to kind of give you a hint of what it's all about. So yeah, no, the Tempest is the new warrior class. As you might imagine, he may have something to do with lightning. It's a really good indication because our expansion is called Storm Legion, right? And so the Tempest is the new warrior range soul. So yeah, we did it. We added one. You've been asking for it for quite a while. It's one of the most popular things people have been asking for, and that's what we went ahead and did. Now, hopefully, we'll be able to get through these technical barriers and give you guys a look-see.
I'll just restart real quick, so see if that works.
Let's see and see
sorry
what
about
happens.
this, guys. You will be able to see my on-the-fly.
All right, we need to distract people. Hold on.
It's got another one.
I got another one.
It's purple.
See, it's purple. It's pretty, right? See, pretty.
Ooh, pretty.
Yeah, the Tempest.
And you get to see how we put this together.
The Tempest will have ball lightning like this, not attached to an electrical base. No cables, no cords required. He's completely portable power source. It's kind of cool, right?
Oh, my video reset. That's why.
Ah.
I was like,
We'll blame it on Elroy this time.
Hey.
Hey,
Oh,
there's
look,
a
we
game.
got the
Okay,
game.
cool. I can get rid of this.
Sorry about that, guys.
I like this one better, anyways. So I like this one. Anyways, so yeah, we were talking about Tempest, new warrior soul, range soul. Probably one of the most popular asked for things that we've had. I don't know, for the past 2 years or so.
Yeah.
So the entire theme of Tempest, like I said, is all about electrical energy, storm powers. They do not use guns. They do not use bows. You can have a gun. You can have a bow. But if you are a Tempest, you are hurling all sorts of awesome lightning, electrical energy, all that fun stuff, which LRR will be showing to us shortly. In fact, Atreus, why don't we go into some of the details on exactly what the Tempest does?
So, as Gersh mentioned, we've had people asking for true range DPS for 2 years now, and that's really what the focus of the Tempest is. They hurl bolts of lightning and electricity out of their weapons and destroy their enemies, charring them from the inside out.
That's the second fail in a row that you
I
forgot to jam yourself.
I forgot I restarted the game.
And
That was awesome.
Elrar is not really showing it here, but they are fairly survivable.
That is actually one of our first questions that was asked. If the Tempest is ranged, how will it compare to melee souls in regards to damage and survivability?
So the damage on the Tempest is slightly behind the melee DPS, and the goal of that is they don't have to move around the battlefield as much, whereas melee DPS tend to have to move to follow an opponent or to avoid things that their enemy is doing. Tempest doesn't have to worry about that as much. So the DPS is slightly lower to make up for that. We've done a pass where we've updated survivability pretty much on all of the DPS on the Warrior, so they're all getting a bump in survivability, and the Tempest is pretty much on par with all of the other DPS.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. I know we meant to talk about this a little later, but now's as good a time as any to talk about it.
Gotta jump there.
So, we, like, Atreus was, can't reveal your real name, that's going to be tricky. Like he was saying is, we did up the survivability of a lot of the DPS in the game, and the reason why we did that actually helps out our tanks quite a bit in some of our normal encounters, because what it'll do is allow DPS to take an extra hit or two. So when that boss mob heals, it's not, oh my god, I just lost 3 people out of the raid before I got aggro. Now back to the Tempest. So we were talking about the Tempest and all of his kind of abilities. Hurling lightning, ball. He has what are they? They're called blasts, right?
Yeah, they're called blasts. They're like electricity grenades that he hurls at his enemy and they explode on contact.
Yeah. So that was where I had planned to pull out this bad boy. Right.
That's where you use that.
So this is all carefully planned and scheduled, except for the fact that the game didn't work, right? So yeah, I mean, he's all about these awesome abilities. I also think, what is it, Storm Torrent? Can we pull a couple of mobs and see what happens? What happens when we do that?
Yeah, where he just unleashes hot electricity love out of his hand and destroys everybody in front of him.
Hot electricity love.
Yeah, I'm patenting that.
That's a talent name.
It's like
so good. You heard it now. We're changing talent names to hot electricity.
That just made me want to add electric boogaloo somewhere in our game.
Yeah,
come on.
No, hot electricity love though.
No Breaking 2 fans in this room, I guess.
So at this point, people are probably a little pissed at us because we're not talking enough about the Tempest. So back to the Tempest. So now he is a ranged DPS soul, but he does, or in this case, she does combine really well with some of the other warrior souls. So the obvious first choice is the Riftblade, right?
Yeah. The Riftblade makes a really solid synergy with the Tempest because both of them have different talents and other abilities that enhance their elemental damage and their elemental effects.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been playing it on beta a little bit, and the Riftblade Tempest is really good, especially good for burst damage, because the Riftblade bursts are just add so much extra stopping power.
Yeah, the Riftblade bursts, you haven't seen it much before because most of the other warrior souls are focused on the melee, but the bursts can take effect at any range, and so when you take out your Tempest ranged abilities that are full range, and then you attach a burst to the end of it, you just blow stuff up.
Yeah. So, we also, pardon me, get rid of that because it's a little staticky and it might shock somebody. But there's also a variety of other things too. So what happens with the Tempest when you want to go with a more melee DPS build? So do we have an example of that? I think.
Yeah, just showing off the Riftblade real quick.
No one cares about ranged DPS warriors. How about melee DPS warriors?
There's a couple of really great combos with that, where you can fire off your bursts and then throw up like your lightning torrent, which will build 3 attack points over the course of its channel, and then you can fire off another burst right after that.
Wow, that's pretty damn sweet.
All right.
So yeah, like I was saying before, we also have I believe Paragon Tempest is another good combo that we've got here.
Another combo here with the Paragon, the Tempest. That's pretty solid for melee because a lot of people they'll use a melee DPS build to get in there and mix it up. As I mentioned before, it does do a little higher DPS, so they'll get in there close, mix it up, and then the boss or whatever they're fighting will decide to do some really horrible AoE that damages everything around them, and they'll want to get out of there. And unlike previously where you'd have to run away and then kind of stand back and wait, now you move back and you just keep unleashing at them.
Yeah. Another thing that's really awesome about this build, because this is another one of those builds, got a chance to try out all of these, obviously, before we talked about it, because it wouldn't be good if I did play it first. But this build is actually really good in PvP too, because having the nice mix of some ranged splash damage to chase people down with, it keeps people from escaping you, keeps them from getting away, and allows you to start the fight from range and close with them. Those really, really annoying mages that used to be a problem, especially if you didn't pick up a champion to get a charge or something like that, are a lot less of a problem.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than jumping out of the bushes on somebody and having them like port away, and now you can't do anything to them. Well, now they port away and you just keep blasting at them.
Yep. So what else? I mean, we've talked a little bit about tanking. We've talked a little bit about ranged DPS. We've talked a little bit about melee DPS. I also know that we're doing a lot of changes that should also include doing things like support. Yeah,
so one of the other things we've had a lot of requests for the last 2 years is a real support role. And so what we've done is we've gone and made some pretty significant changes to the Beastmaster to put him into a support role and allow him to be the support class for the warriors. And so you can combine the Tempest with the Beastmaster to give yourself a great dungeon build or raid build that provides the kind of support that you might get from a Bard or an Archon, And at the same time, they don't have to get in there close. They can stand back with their electricity and fire from afar, and they don't have to put themselves right in the line of fire while they're providing all that support to everybody around them.
Yeah, and it also makes a really good leveling build as well, because the addition of the pet is really strong.
And I'm going to break in right here. You just were riding around on something.
I was just riding around on something.
What were you just riding around on?
That would be Cyclone, the awesome beast from the plane of air that is yours with the Infinity Edition.
So if you're gonna name drop something, you should kill the boss and get on the mount.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, kill the boss.
And also,
Show us your GM skills.
Also,
she's knocking me around.
Question for you guys while he's getting back on that mount. People are asking about the specs for the weapons and if damage will be calculated based on the ranged weapon you're holding. And, you know, this person's dual wielding too right now.
Okay, so your damage is calculated from your melee weapons. And the dual wield comment brings up another thing we're doing is that we completely changed the way we do damage on the weapons for the expansion. So now, whether you're dual wielding or whether you're using a two-hander is just inherent. You can choose to pick one up and start using it. You don't need to be a special calling. You don't need special talents. You just get to do it. And so we're not really limiting people that way. Anyone can play that way.
Yeah, like we said earlier with the Harbinger reveal, we did change a lot of things about kind of the core mechanics of the way the game works. So things like making it more available to do dual wield or don't show people bears.
He didn't say that. You didn't hear that.
Yeah, no, you didn't hear that. So back to what I was talking about. So, you know, in addition, we're allowing people more flexibility in weapons, right? So dual wield and great weapons are now equally as viable depending on what you want to do with your build. You know, the warriors scale a lot better now with attack power, whereas previously they and the rogues didn't quite scale about the same. We've done a lot under the hood to kind of make that experience better for them. Now, on top of all of that, we've also, like we said before, gone back and taken a look at all of the souls. So it's not just the Tempest, which got, you know, all the love this time around. But we did a lot of revamps and a lot of changes to some of the existing souls. I know, like, for example, the Warlord was one of those candidates that he never really had a really secure role. He was kind of the spotter's orders guy, and that was about it.
You took him for spotter's orders and sergeant's orders. You could pull people in and you could put the call on them. We've done a lot of changes to the Warlord. He has gone from being the kind of misplaced person he was before, and now he's got a role. He's focused DPS with tank utility. So he works really well combining him with any of the tanks because he brings utility and some extra DPS to those tanks, increasing them up. And he works really well with any of the DPS souls, bringing them more survivability and at the same time adding his own unique DPS.
Yeah.
And he still has sergeant's orders.
Yeah. If we got rid of sergeant's orders, we'd probably be screwed. But so, I mean, that also brings up another good point about tanks and DPS in general. I know we went back and we took a look, and so tanks are super important in a group, but at the same time, we wanted to make sure that they felt like they were contributing a little bit more, especially in a raid situation when you've got, you know, one of your warriors is an off tank, but there's nothing to off tank until 2 minutes into the fight. So we did make some adjustments to their DPS, right?
Yeah, we increased tank DPS across the board. Every warrior tank, no matter if they're Paladin, Reaver, Void Knight, they will see a significant increase in their DPS generation.
What?
Nothing.
I don't want to look behind me, do I?
That is awesome.
What the hell?
So they're they were asking about, you know, seeing the different souls and the soul trees. Can we pull those up and talk a little bit about, you know, different pairings?
That was completely unexpected. I have to admit, we planned some of this, but that
to go jump on him and kick him into
I want to know who that was.
Yeah, we don't even know who that was.
And we never will.
So I don't know. What soul is a good soul to show? What do you think?
Well, the ones that got the most change were the Beastmaster and the Warlord. You can show pretty much any of them.
Is there a preference? Would somebody in the audience like to see a particular soul?
Yeah.
Shout it out.
I know that there have been some questions, particularly about the support buffs for Beastmaster, sorry.
For Beefmaster?
Yes, the Beefmaster, you know, the other soul we're
That's our grilling
And-
soul.
Coming in
and-
3.0
barbecue.
with a Beefmaster.
and the Bard buffs. Talking about that, and I will go look through some of these, but
So
people
why
are
don't we-
screaming Warlord Champion and Paragon, so
Yeah,
pretty
so-
much everyone.
So why don't we pop over to the Beastmaster real quick?
Yep.
And you want to?
The turtle is back. That's awesome. Every time.
Serious? Was he just doing?
Yeah.
Style?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Anyways, oh god, Beastmaster. Okay,
Yes.
Beastmaster.
As opposed to
buffs, yes.
as opposed to the Beefmaster.
Beastmaster,
Okay.
Beastmaster buffs. So support buffs, right? How does that work?
So one of the things we wanted to do is we definitely wanted to. We didn't want you keeping up
You can
your.
mouse over a couple.
Yeah, feel free. We didn't want you to feel like you were keeping your buffs up all the time, like you were juggling buffs. So pretty much what he does is he puts self buffs up on himself, and then during the course of battle, as he is dealing damage to his enemies, those buffs are generating their effects on the raid. So he doesn't have to sit there and juggle what he's.
So basically, they're preparatory type abilities that trigger off automatically when you do finishers and stuff like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So the buffing of the Beastmaster actually doesn't go into the rotation as in a hey, I'm casting this buff as part of my rotation. It's you're presetting it up, and when you trigger certain abilities, those buffs go off automatically.
And that's the general buffing they do. They do have several buffs that they can do that are cast at the time, or emergency buffs, or things they throw up as a cooldown, but their general buffs that they keep up the entire raid, the entire time, are done before the fight.
Yeah. So, I mean, other people were asking. I guess now at this point we're kind of in the Q&A session, right?
Pretty much.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. So all the hard questions are going to come.
We're in the turtle session now.
Yeah, he's going to be back.
Yeah, he is.
Anyways, yeah. If anybody out there is listening to this, like that is back there in the office, do something about the turtle. So
Now they're gonna have a beatdown.
Somebody give us a question because we've completely been blown off course by that
So,
thing.
I mean, this is a little bit of what you were talking about before, but what are your recommended soul pairings for Tempest, and also your favorite playstyles?
Favorite playstyles?
Sure.
Here's mine.
I do like the Tempest Earthblade, mainly because I like the fact that I can play a ranged DPS class. At the same time, I am fond of the Tempest Beastmaster as well, because I have barded my way through a couple of raids. And so, you know, that's the best thing to do when... what?
He's just making a cocktail.
Yes. Well, that's
Another
why I
man
like
in the
playing
office.
support classes. No,
We're
but
madmen around here.
yeah, the Tempest Beastmaster is also really good because I tend not to play the main healer or the main tank in a group because I'm a producer and producers aren't useful at anything. So support classes are how I get into raids.
Right. I think my favorite is the Tempest Riftblade. Personally, it's so much fun. But I also really like the Paragon Tempest because it works really well. I like beating on stuff up in melee, and then when I run away, I like being able to launch my electricity at it. But also the Tempest Champion works out pretty well because the Tempest blasts combine really well with the Champion's AoE abilities to just really mess stuff up.
So you start out with like the AoE blast from a distance, they get
Yeah.
up close. So actually that's a good point. I seem to remember we made some significant changes to the Champion and the Paragon to kind of make them more distinct. How's that go?
So we talked about it a little bit before when I talked about dual wield versus two-handers, and it really doesn't matter anymore. They do the same damage pretty much no matter what you do. You don't need anything special. So because we made that change, we kind of had to redirect the Paragon and the Champion because they used to be focused on dual wield and two-hander. So the Paragon is now your single target focused soul. So if you want to be single target DPS, get on the boss, beat on the boss, you pick the Paragon. And if you want to do AoE DPS, like for picking up trash in raids or taking on invasions or anything like that, you take the Champion. He's more focused in that AoE arena now.
Yeah, and now you can mix and match them a little bit better because Paragons will pick up Champion to be able to, you know, contribute more in those situations where they need to do AoE DPS and vice versa with the champion picking up Paragon.
Right, a lot of people, they'll take Paragon because it's, they like doing that single target DPS, but then they'll find they're not hitting the DPS numbers they want to do when they're getting trash or when they're doing an invasion, and so they'll mix in a little bit of champion to get some of that in there.
Yeah, so I mean the other thing that I can look forward to is because I played a lot of Reaver. When I played Warriors, I preferred Reaver as my tank of choice, and now that means, I think, that I can go ahead and pick up Champion and get that much more AE damage, AE threat, right?
Correct. And speaking of the Reaver, he combines really well with the Tempest.
Really well?
Oh, yeah.
So
he's very pretty.
So now that we've kind of gone off track, do we have any more questions? I think we don't have any, right?
We have no questions. The chat is completely silent.
Cool.
They would like to see more tooltips from you. They actually had me move the window, and I'm going to move this window for you guys so you don't kill me.
Are there any tooltips I shouldn't show them right now?
I can't think of any that would be a problem.
Just remember to manage your expectations here. The numbers and everything may change. The functionality may change. It's up to these guys.
There is a reason why we are still building this. Yes,
we are still very much in development.
So honestly, we can do the entire next live cast without us. What we'll do is we'll just have Elrar come on and he'll just go through the tooltips one at a time.
5 seconds per tooltip.
And so that'll be a nice 2-hour presentation.
That would take a while, but you can at least show some of that. And for people who are saying there is echo, we are in an office, and last time we had all this amazing sound foam, but the audio guys took it back. So we will fix that for the next stream.
Yeah, I heard they're taking it back because they're doing all the VO recording for the expansion.
Because they might be using it for work.
Yeah.
Just possibly. So the question is it worthwhile to go full Tempest? What does that mean? How does it play?
So yes, it is worthwhile. You play pretty much as a focused AoE DPS soul, or not AoE, sorry, ranged DPS soul.
That's true. You got a lot of AoE in the
You do have a lot of AoE, but you're focused ranged. There's very little you can do up close and personal at that point. So if you like to play at range, you don't like people to get up on you, the Tempest is viable for that playstyle.
And another question, when will these souls be coming out? In the next patch or with Storm Legion?
So all of it depends. Which souls are you talking about?
This one.
This one?
Yes.
This one particular soul. What are we looking at?
It's Tempest.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
Now,
no. So yeah, the new souls. So the Tempest, the Harbinger, the yet to be named Cleric, and the yet to be named Rogue. See how I didn't reveal that? Will all be coming out live with what we call 2.0 or Storm Legion. All of the other souls, however, will be coming out before Storm Legion. So you'll get the chance to see all of the changes to the existing souls. You get to see the new changes to all of the other warrior souls, all the other rogue souls, mage souls, and everything before the expansion comes out.
And not to mention, you'll be unlocking the first dungeon of the expansion as well, and Tempest Rise in the World event that comes with all of those awesome changes.
Yeah, so actually...
That's only if you pre-order, though.
So, we do need to close the window for a minute, because I want to point out a couple things.
Sure.
So first of all, we have a class named Tempest. Second of all, we have an event that's revealing the expansion called Tempest Rising. And we failed to mention where we were running around at the beginning of this presentation. This is the city, which is called Tempest Bay.
That was going to be one of my next questions. What is this beautiful city?
Yes. So we're actually running around in one of the main courtyard areas of Tempest Bay. So you can imagine it's a storm-based expansion. We have a lot of different designers working on a lot of different things. The idea of a Tempest is quite appealing, I guess. So it's the...
well, that's just how awesome this soul is.
This soul is everything's named after the Tempest.
Pretty much.
Well, there's, in fact, I believe, an entire faction built in the city all around the Tempest.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. And I'm not the king of lore. He's back there somewhere.
He better not have been in the turtle suit.
City. Yeah, he better not have been the guy in the turtle. No,
he's a little short for the turtle suit.
He's a lot taller. So yeah, we've been running around here in Tempest Bay, which is just one or two of the areas of the city that we've been showing.
And we can't run around too much of it because it is very much a work in progress. Like, you can see the world just fall away through that little hole right there.
Well, that's because you got your graphic settings real low.
Oh, yeah? Do I? Well, I guess for my resolution I do.
Yeah.
So there are also some questions about the Warlord because they are asking about the changes there. I'm not sure how much you can show here since this is the Tempest specific. I don't know what's going on with my words today. Specific stream.
Just a day for
Friday's just hell for these things.
We can pull up the soul tree. Well,
As long as he doesn't die.
Now
again.
he's in combat, so you can't pull up the soul charge.
Everyone wants to
Make
see
like a
more
GM
lightning.
and auto kill. Come on, chop chop.
More hot lightning love.
Now it's hot lightning. Anyways, cue the troll. So Warlord.
Warlord.
Yeah.
Go to an empty one and
Yeah.
put that on there.
So, Atreus, Warlord, tell me.
So the biggest change of the Warlord is we have shifted them from a tank soul, which was their focus before, to a hybrid tank DPS soul. They do significant DPS. They're right up there, just below melee DPS. So they're viable as a DPS soul, even all the way up into the tree. Low in the tree, they have a lot of tanking utility that you might want to get for another tank. One of the things that they get that people might find interesting is you can block without a shield. So that makes them combine really well with Paladin or any of the other tanks you might want to combine them with. But at the same time, they get lots of other benefits that enhance other DPS souls. Combining it with just about anything works really well.
I saw that block without a shield thing right before you said it, and I got super excited.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying in playtesting combining that with Champion, Paragon, just about anything.
Yeah, so you're spending all your time at the top of the tree there. Why don't you go down to the very bottom where all the new stuff is? No, all the way there.
down
You go.
there. Yeah.
Down low. So, now you can see the stuff that you can't get until Storm Legion comes out. But, hey, we want to show you that too.
And another question, and I'm going to mispronounce one of these. How does the interaction between Beastmaster, Bard, and Archon? I never had to say it out loud. In terms of buff stacking, how does that work?
So in general, the buffs we create for these buffing souls, some of the buffs are intended to stack with each other and are either unique or specialties of that particular soul. But for a majority of them, they don't stack with each other. So like if you have the buff that increases your attack power from the Bard, it's probably not going to stack with the buff that increases your attack power on the Beastmaster. It's probably not going to stack with the buff that enhances attack power on the Archon. Yeah. But their emergency buttons or their other specialty buttons will stack with each other.
The important thing to note about that is there is actually a rhyme behind that reason, right? And that's because what we don't want is a whole quarter of your raid to have to be made up of support classes. So by giving each one some situational buffs that are good here or there, there's definitely a preferred support class depending on what your encounter is, but the vast majority of them will be able to mix in or out depending on whatever you need at the time. So it's not going to be a situation it's like, great, 3 slots of my raid roster. Yeah, I can't talk today either. Raid roster are doing stuff. Okay, anyways, I'm not going to pay attention. I'm going to talk to you guys. Raid roster are, Bards, Archons, and Beastmaster.
Right. Yeah, you basically don't need very many support souls in a raid. And the idea is that you can have any one of them and really be okay. Maybe you want multiple to have the different special things they have, but in general you should be fine with one.
Yeah,
two.
We don't want we don't want our raid leaders to have to be like a tactician to figure out exactly what's going on.
We don't want them to say, you have to play Beastmaster because we need one, and you have to play a Bard because we need one, and you have to play an Archon. We want there to be a little bit more flexibility.
Yep.
And someone is asking if you can explain what critical hit power is.
Critical hit power is.
Did
you mouse over something you weren't supposed to?
I asked you if there was anything I wasn't supposed to mouse
Well,
over.
everything but that.
Critical hit power is in flux right now, so it's probably best we don't go into detail.
I mean, at a core, like I said, we're readjusting how some of the core systems of the game work. And one of those things is we wanted to make sure that we had a variety of different stats for people to look and build different builds over. So one of the things we did do is crit power itself was really, really powerful in the original game because not only did it up your crit rate, but your crit power, your size of your crit hits were a static value as well. So now we've split that out into 2 stats. So we actually have a crit hit or crit power is the rating, and then critical hit power is the damage value of the crit as well.
Critical hit is the critical hit rating. Is to
that.
crit. Critical hit power is how much damage you do.
Yeah, there you go. That's why you're the designer and I'm the producer and I'm drinking.
And so another question, is the Tempest 20 meter ranged or 30 meter ranged?
30 meter ranged, and he may or may not have things like the Marksman to increase that. And those things may or may not also increase ranged abilities on other souls.
Okay.
I like the may or may nots. Very non-committal.
Here's a good one. If you could give a spoiler for a new player, existing player, or returning player that would motivate them to play warrior as opposed to the other classes, what would it be?
Pew pew pew.
No, he doesn't pew pew pew. It's zap zap zap. No, it's zap zap zap.
Zap zap zap.
Zap zap. No, pew 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 sounds better. No, I mean, I think one of the best things about the warrior and having played all four.
What's going on?
We have too many things that are stuffed full of stuff.
Clearly, our entire office is just full of toys and costumes.
We need to do this somewhere that there isn't a glass wall. So, what was I talking about? Why play warrior in expansion? New player?
You're talking about fourth stuff? Like, dog.
Okay, cool. So, we were talking about why play a warrior, why a new player comes in. Warriors, especially now that we've added the Tempest in, are extremely well-rounded, especially if you're looking for a DPS or tanking situation. So you can solo really well. You could jump into a group, always be needed. I mean, when do you not need a tank? And if you don't need a tank this time, and you don't want that extra fast looking for group queue time. I mean, extra fast. If you want to get in the dungeon looking for groups, play a tank. You'll be in instantaneously. And if you don't get thrown in instantaneously as a tank, as a warrior, you'll have that DPS soul to fall back on.
Support soul.
And the support soul as well.
Yeah. And, we've increased their survivability, we've increased their utility, we've just done things across the board to make them more fun.
So, another question. If you can tank without a shield with Warlord, are you going to have two-handed tank weapons?
I'll let Gersh answer that one.
Excuse me, what was the question?
we could you're out of drink now.
Okay,
Two-handed tank weapons.
Plead the fifth?
Yeah. Good idea. So yeah, suffice to say, I somewhat plead the fifth, but there are some really interesting options that allow us for two-hand tank weapons. I may or may not be spoiling this, and I may or may not have a designer back there. Actually, the designer just walked by, screaming agony. But we are looking at things like different ways to upgrade existing weapons. So we can do things like special one-off weapons for a two-handed tank, or a sword or weapon that's specifically designed for, say, a bard. They won't be common per se, but there will be ways for people to get things like that.
And just to add on to that, I won't answer the question at all, but in a play test a few days ago, I played a tank using a two-hander that was a DPS two-hander, and I was very viable as the tank.
So going back to Tempest, how will interrupts and silences affect Tempest?
Almost everything the Tempest has is instant, just like all of the other warriors. So it'll have little impact. Silences will have the same effect they have on any warrior, but interrupts will have very little impact.
Yeah. Now that being said, some of the more potent abilities like
Charge Bolt,
Charge
Pulse,
Charge Pulse,
Charge Pulse,
and Lightning Storm and Storm Torrent, something. The torrents, right? The zaps.
Yes, it'll
those will be interruptible.
So you'll get your Lightning Torrent, your Storm Torrent, and your Charge Pulse will all be interruptible.
Probably the hardest thing about this expansion is learning all the new ability names. There's just a few.
So, a couple other questions before we wrap up. Will warriors get a pet overhaul?
The pet pretty much fills the same role it did before. We're not going to be giving them new pets or extra pets or making their pets dance or anything special. It's pretty much remaining the DPS-focused pet that it is now. It's just, since the Beastmaster will be focused more on support and DPS, it feels a little bit different in the soul, but no, the pet's not getting an overhaul.
And this is another more general Storm Legion question. How many role slots will we see in Storm Legion?
At least as many as you see right now. I don't know. Open up the window. Let's see. How many do you see right now?
Still 6.
Still 6. Well, that means we haven't added a 7th yet.
That means we've got 6, at least.
Yeah, we have 6. We may have 7, or possibly 8, maybe 9, 10, or 11.
But they can count on 6.
Yeah, definitely 6.
And just to give my team, who's also gathering questions from chat because you guys are talking too fast for me to even be able to read any of this coherently. One last question from my pre-questions. Are there any plans to give warriors aggro tools to work on more than 10 mobs?
So, not to work on more than 10 mobs, but we have increased a number of the existing tools to affect more mobs than they currently do. An example of that is a couple of days ago I changed Plaguebringer on the Reaver. No longer affects 5 souls, it now affects 10 souls, 10 people. So yeah, we've been enhancing the number of targets you can affect with things, but nothing that goes over 10.
And I'm going to read this one pretty much verbatim. You mentioned Tempest range DPS will be lower than pure melee specs because ranged have it easier. Will that hold true for other classes as well, like mages doing lower DPS if they're ranged versus melee?
See, what's the best way to put it? Each calling does have a bit more of a specialty. So in the case of the warrior, the Tempest is a little bit lower than, say, the Paragon or the champion. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we don't want to mix super ultra high range DPS, super ultra high melee DPS together.
Well, and if they were both just as good as each other, no one would ever play the melee DPS.
Yeah. But as far as mages and clerics go, for example, or mages specifically, mage DPS, when you're looking at the top of your simple meter, right, you're still going to see a fairly solid grouping of mages, warriors, rogues, and maybe even the cleric, but you'll have to wait a few weeks to hear more about that.
And that difference between the melee and the ranged, that can totally be overcome by a good player versus a mediocre player or even a bad player. If you have a good player who's doing melee DPS or a ranged DPS, he can completely outdamage a poor player or even a mediocre player.
Yeah, it's important to note the difference isn't big, right? It's fairly small because we want it to make up for the fact that sometimes you have to move, and when sometimes you have to move, you need to do a little bit more damage when you're not moving. But that's not a situation where it's going to be, hey, melee guys here, ranged guys here. Right. It's that big, not that big.
It's a little bit.
Another question, will there be anything like a soul tree calculator for people who want to crunch their numbers and not wait until release these days?
I don't know if we're actually going to be releasing, well, there will be a soul tree calculator that comes out when we put out all the new souls and all the new soul changes. I do not know if that will be made available earlier than that.
I think I'm going to also, because I know I've held you for almost 45 minutes now and we're nearing the end of our time.
Okay.
Will the Tempest have any crowd control abilities?
They have some crowd control, but not a lot. We've kind of cut back on how much crowd control there is on all the different souls, so they do have a couple of abilities you can use for the purposes of crowd control. Yes.
Yeah, but they're really not a crowd control class. Like one of the things about the warriors is they do have inherently slightly higher hit points and higher armor, so having crowd control abilities isn't as important for survivability for them.
No, and like I said, we also have bumped up the survivability of just about every soul across the board. So they're definitely more capable of taking a lot of damage than they were before.
Well, I think we're going to go cut away from the game itself. I think this ends our time with our soul reveal.
Awesome. Okay.
Aww, sad.
Did you have more things you wanted to reveal?
I don't know. I see that scrolling really
just
fast.
going
I
so
think
fast.
they're never going to end with their questions.
All right. Well, if there's one really good question, is there one really good one?
Okay.
Like a real humdinger?
We're going to give you one question. I'm going to let my team also, who's looking at questions, ask.
If you have to ask one thing about the expansion, one thing, and one thing only, and it can't be about a rogue or a cleric.
And the answer is 42.
It has to be about a warrior.
When is the next one? We haven't told you, but soon.
They used up their one question
guys,
on that.
Guys, no. Guys who are in Skype with me, if you can help me, because this is scrolling pretty darned fast.
Faster.
Is it on slow scroll?
They're saying it's... I can't change it because I'm not a mod in here. So, does the Cyclone mount hover over water? I don't think that one's good enough.
No, it functions exactly like your current mount. Although, like we said in the Harbinger one, we are going to be adding additional mount speeds to cover the vast amounts of terrain we're adding.
Look at you just giving them free answers.
And LR may or may not have run by another mount earlier in the presentation.
May or may not have.
Ah.
Bears.
Here's a question. I think this will be the last one. Will warriors have stealth?
I may have accidentally done something, but I'm not answering that question.
They may or may not have...
No, we ended the last one on stealth. We need a different question.
Yeah, we need something...
Need another different question? Okay, gonna look.
We
They say
cannot
they're
end
trying.
2 presentations on the exact same topic.
That question
That's
is
a
answered
good
if you
point.
go back and look at the tooltips that were
And
displayed.
that is something while my team tries to find a question, because
Nobody's
there's no
gonna do
way
that.
I'm going to read it fast enough and try and ask you guys questions too. For those of you who aren't getting questions answered because we're only doing one more, please go to facebook.com/riffgame or twitter.com/riffgame and ask questions there. We will also be putting this up as an archive on YouTube, so hopefully we will cut out the weird flashing at the beginning. But other than that...
But we're keeping the turtle.
Oh god, of course we're keeping the turtle. So now looking back, because...
Have a talk with the turtle.
I don't know who the fuck.
We'll find him.
Pardon my
yes,
French.
we will.
I think the first email we're going to have to send out is, who was the turtle? And then I'm going to give that guy a beer.
These are all very specific questions. We need a good question that's not...
They probably
really
want you to
minute.
pick the specific questions. That's why.
Okay, Reaver, Paladin, Void Knight. Are they going to give you the same, mitigation differences in utilities only? Because now it's all about Reaver.
Right, so we've actually balanced, we've gone through and we've balanced the mitigation on all of the tank souls. Removing a tank soul by making the Warlord focus on DPS has given us some freedom in that avenue, but they should all be right about the same. I believe the Void Knight is a little bit better at spells and non-physical, and the Paladin's a little bit better in physical, and the Reaver does a little bit better damage than both of them, but the mitigation is a little bit lower, I believe, is the balance we've hit or are hitting.
Yeah, so once again, we're talking about really small differences, not large differences.
Yeah, these are not big differences. If you go into a dungeon with a paladin and the boss is throwing fireballs, you are not going to be, oh my gosh, I need to be a Void Knight. You're going to be just fine.
Yeah, and so I guess that was the last question.
I mean, that was a good question to end on, I think.
That's solid.
It's a good question to end on.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good one.
Oh dear.
I don't think he knows that we're
Chris,
live right now.
We're still live.
We're still live. Go. Thank you.
Wow, I hope they didn't see that.
I don't know what that
I
was.
don't know what that was either.
No
white-
one's going to print screen that.
It was a whiteboard going to a meeting. Anyways, on that note, we should end.
Thank you guys.
Is there anything else?
Hope you had fun. Again, please join us on our channels. We will be alerting you when we do another one of these. It's only going to be a couple weeks away, and I'm pretty sure it'll be just as fun as this one, if not more.
Can't be as fun as this one.
No.
Thanks, guys.
But we'll try.
Bye.
Possibly.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
See ya.